Welcome today. We're excited to have a guest. His name is Chuck. We're going to be talking about Lp(a). Chuck's got a very interesting Lp(a) story.
Well, glad to be here. Hi, everybody. I've been following Dr. Brewer's videos for some time, since the shaky paper days. Well, I don't know if since the shaky paper days, but I've seen a lot of I've gone back and watched a lot of the old stuff, so I've seen a lot of the shaky paper videos. But yeah, great to be here. My story, basically, I do have a family history of some early deaths in the family from heart disease. I never knew my grandfather on my mother's side because he died before I was born. Died at age 52 of a heart attack. Turns out he had a cousin that died at age 44 of a heart attack. And then his father, so that would be my maternal great-grandfather, died at age 54 of a heart attack. I have a brother a couple years younger than me, and we were always kind of, aware of this. We were aware that there might be a serious genetic predisposition to heart disease in our family. So we tried to live healthy lives. We tried to, exercise, control our weight, eat healthy, not eat fast food, and watch our LDL levels and all that stuff that's recommended. But then a couple years ago, a heart murmur was detected in a physical, and ended up being sent to a cardiologist who, thought it'd be a good idea to run a whole bunch of tests on me, echocardiogram and EKG. And he also ran an advanced lipid panel called a cardio IQ from Quest Diagnostics. I'm the kind of person, I like to look over my lab work and kind of, if I see something that says hi, I'll research it. So the cardio IQ is a great report. It gives you all kinds of, not only standard lipid panel, it's an advanced lipid panel. And it gives you all kinds of particle size information, particle counts, particle size. And another thing that it gives you is something I had never heard of before called lipoprotein (a), or abbreviated Lp(a). And I'm looking at the category, the line item for that, and I see an H, a bold H next to that. Oh, that's elevated. That means it's elevated. And I looked at my count, and it was 243 nanomoles per liter. The reference range was 75. You're not supposed to be over 75. Over 75 is elevated. So that caught my attention because I was over 3 times the reference range. So I started researching it. And that's actually how I found Dr. Brewer's channel, because he's got some really good videos out there on Lp(a), and some of them are from the shaky paper days, but he covers a lot of the bases with Lp(a). I learned a lot from Dr. Brewer. There's a lot of other videos out there. I read a lot of papers, published literature on Lp(a), and realized this is a very, very serious issue. It's something where if you have high levels, it can lead to heart attack in your 40s, 50s. In fact, very often when you hear about somebody who has a heart attack in their 40s and 50s, or has chest pains that lead to stents, you'll find upon further investigation that it is Lp(a) as the culprit. And a lot of times it goes unnoticed. Unfortunately, the medical community is kind of oblivious when it comes to knowledge of Lp(a). I don't know, you're probably talking about less than 5% of the doctors in the country that are Lp(a) literate. Dr. Brewer, you probably have a pretty good handle on that. And so we also, kind of putting 2 and 2 together, we said, wait a minute, Grandpa died at 52, and it's also highly genetic. Unlike LDL you can control with diet and exercise, and then if you can't get it low enough, you can take a statin. But with Lp(a) is different. It's genetic, and there's really, diet and exercise have no effect, virtually no effect on it. So that's one of those things where you go, oh my gosh, what can I do? Highly genetic, which means, if you have it, I have a brother, so we had him tested. I have 2 children, 2 biological children, and I had both of them tested, and I had my parents tested. And it turns out, sure enough, my brother has sky-high levels like me. He's in the 240, 250 nanomole range, just like me. One of my children is totally normal, and one of them has very high levels. She's not as high as me, but she's about 150. And my mom had a level of 200 nanomoles per liter. And so my dad was totally normal, by the way. So you can see, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out, okay, almost certainly it came from my mom. Her dad died at 52 of a heart attack, we're pretty certain that that was the cause. And so what we did next was, again, I had done a lot of research on it. My cardiologist, he wasn't real knowledgeable about it. He knew some things about it. And I felt like I wanted to, he didn't seem very concerned about it, quite honestly. I think a lot of times people get that high score, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Brewer, but a lot of times people get that high score and it just goes unnoticed.
It does. It does. You've brought up a whole bunch of things, and as you know, we've got a deck, if I can ever get my technology to work over on this side, which can help explain a little bit about why it's genetic, what proteins are made in your family. It's a variation of the protein that forms LDL, and it's got a thing on it called Kringle repeats. The Kringle repeats look like a little hook hanging off. Now, a lot of folks think that actually makes it sticky, that it hooks to the artery wall. There's another mechanism. Some people, and it could be a little bit of both mechanisms, where it's not really clear which mechanisms actually are having an impact. The protein that forms LDL and the related protein, especially in your family, that forms Lp(a), is very much related to the proteins that form clots. So the potential mechanism there is that there's some increased clot forming activity. Have your doctors talked to you about either of those?
Yes, there's basically the three major issues with Lp(a) are increased risk of atherosclerosis, increased risk of aortic stenosis, valve calcification, and venal thrombosis. Would that be correct? Say those three would be the three major risks. And so for me, what we did was I wanted to dig a little deeper and to see what was going on. So in consultation with my cardiologist, we decided to get a CAC scan done, calcification in my coronary arteries. Some people with high levels of Lp(a), and by the way, my level at 243 nanomoles puts me about at the 95th percentile. So that's very high. However, about 20% of the population has an elevated level. So this is very common. So the CAC scan, it wasn't great. You hope at my age, I was 52 at the time, you hope that you'd get a 0. Most people have a 0 at that age still. And I had a 35. It's not the end of the world, but it put me in the 74th percentile. I was hoping, living as healthy as I thought I had been living, I would have been lower than that, but it is what it is. It shows, some early signs. It's indicative or suggestive of some early signs of heart disease.
Continue to get great feedback regarding the webinars, and here's why. On the internet, when you hear a webinar, you expect for somebody to try to sell you something. We're not doing that. We're trying to tell you something. People are coming in with their labs from Quest, inflammation panel, OGTT, insulin survey response, and then they're finding out, do I have inflammation? Do I have insulin resistance? And where does that fit in terms of other folks? We're getting ready to start one for CINT as well. So again, people are really excited about finding out their own status. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks.